Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of In the Field, where we see players battle it out, testing their skills, and putting their teams to the test to see who will be victorious. I'll be your host, Necromanticer, and with me is my illustrious co-host, Dylan.
Thanks, Necro. Yeah, we have a very unique matchup here today. On your left is the Throwback Thursday team being piloted by Kit, and on your right will be what did Patrick call it?
I believe it was called Making the Competitive Cuts for all the nasty characters he's bringing along to the table.
Right, it does look like a good matchup here of a flat throwback, and I'm really screwing this up right now. But I can edit this. That's fine.
Okay.
All right, so somewhat unique. Okay, I'll start over here. We have a somewhat unique themed matchup today. On your left is Throwback Thursday being piloted by Kit, and on your right is what the hell did he call it?
Making the competitive cuts. Making the competitive cuts.
All right, got it. One more time. It's easier when I actually have it in front of me and can see it. So here we go. All right. We have a very unique.
Go with impressive.
You want to do impressive? All right.
Yeah.
We have a very impressive matchup today. On your left is the Throwback Thursday team being piloted by Kit, and on your right is the Competitive Cut being piloted by Patrick.
Making the competitive cuts.
Making the Competitive Cuts, piloted by Shadowmeld. So before we start, Necro, what's your initial impressions of these teams?
Oh, I'm seeing some very, very meta-oriented teams. We've got Green Goblin, we've got Wasp, we've got Formerly Weapon 10, we've got Human Torch on both sides. These are just some very nasty teams, both very well-geared. We still see Constantine on both sides. It is all about those high-level characters and just punching through with as much damage as they can possibly muster. Jocasta is going to be nasty, but Human Paladin is probably going to be negating a little bit of Jocasta and Green Goblin damage out from Kit's side. So
yeah, and
we're just going to have to see how those matchups play out.
I'm really excited to see where this goes, especially with no real ramp in sight right now, at least other than Blue Eyes. I mean, there's the traditional Professor X ramp style, or even the D&D Cobalt. So it definitely be an interesting pace. I think these teams are going to be going at. Sorry. All right. Well, let's get this game underway. Patrick or Shadowmeld has won the roll off, so he'll start.
Let's see what we can roll up here.
And Patrick returning after his the first episode. Again, came down to luck on that last one, but I'm looking at his team. I think that he's probably going to have a change here with the strategy he has in set. First roll looks pretty solid. He's got a bolt, shield, sidekick, and mask. It looks like he is going to keep that. That would be a perfect Wasp purchase if he does decide to keep that.
Could be Wasp, but I'm actually seeing a Blue Eyes White Dragon global coming out here, maybe into a Human Paladin, because there's a bunch of nasty globals. But oh, well, color me impressed. You got that right on the head. That bolt is very valuable against those sidekicks, but Wasp may have been the right purchase there.
Right. I mean, traditionally we would see that purchase probably more on a team where Professor X was in the game, because turn to turn he's going to be more of an effect with Wasp, doing that single point of damage every time used. But it does look like Kit has pulled out a sidekick, shield, 2 shields, and a bolt. With that, which direction would you go?
Oh, that's difficult to say. I'm not seeing anything particularly good. I guess a Green Goblin could be nice. There we go.
Looks like
fielding a bunch of sidekicks, dealing a ton of damage. That's going to mean that Patrick is going to have to save a shield in reserve pretty much every turn in order to take advantage of that Human Paladin global. Otherwise, he's going to eat quite the nasty hit to the face.
Right. Looks like we've got another good solid roll there. Shield, bolt, and wild, as well as a sidekick. I mean, an overall direction of the team looks like it's, wouldn't you say, more heavily focused on direct damage, or where do you see the win condition on Patrick's side?
I think both of these teams are pretty much focused on burn. If Patrick can get that Captain America out, he will definitely win the burn war, but I'm not sure if he's going to have time to set that up. And with the Mystic Box Human Paladin combo, he can actually abuse his opponent's attack values. So
Right.
he might just want to swarm the field with something like Human Torch and a ton of sidekicks.
It does look like he went ahead with the Human Torch, so we might see a flood of characters. Hopefully, really directing the damage as that seems to be, like you said, the main mode on both sides. But on Kit's side, he's now rolled a Wild Mask, Bolt, and Fist. So 4 cost. He's got options ranging from Jocasta, Wolverine, Human Torch himself. Is this going to be turned into a battle of pings? We'll see in a second here, I guess, if he goes ahead and grabs the same thing, another Human Torch.
I definitely think that Human Torch is kind of the character to watch here, just because he's so efficient so early. No, instead we see Jocasta, and I'm kind of wary of that choice, because Human Torch can ping off that protective shield that Jocasta has at pretty much any moment, and the Human Paladin Global has been ruled as completely negating most of the Jocasta damage.
Oh, looks like he did go ahead and blue eyes the sidekick instead of buying the Jocasta. Let's see what he decides to purchase with.
That could be a perfect Nova, but without any other sidekicks on the field, that Green Goblin isn't going to be doing a whole lot. He could be rolling a max of 4 sidekicks and fielding Gabi next turn, but that's going to be some stupid good luck if he wants to pull that off.
Right, we'll see what Patrick goes here. He might get the Human Torch early on. Looks like he's up. He's going for the Wasp. Okay, so we'll see if he gets the character side. He did.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So many sidekicks. And without Professor X in the game, fielding sidekicks is just such a fantastic way to sequester them off the field. On the field. Make sure they're not running through your bag. Make sure they're not cluttering things up. Sadly, he couldn't make another purchase with that, so he decides to abandon it and see if he can field Wasp with some of his other energy. And I think the only other character available to him after fielding Wasp is going to be Storm.
Right, and Storm, we're just looking at her. There's definitely very much a basic part of her that really stands out as the global portion, being able to redirect those targeted action die. As a character, I think she mostly falls as probably just chump or even fuel for fire for Human Torch more than anything else, because I don't see any of the action dice on Kit's side really producing any kind of damage.
Yeah, sadly, the only targeted action die in the game. In fact, is Mystic Box targeted? I don't think it is. No, there's no targeted action dice, so that effect isn't really going to be doing a whole lot, since there's also no damaging dice. I think that instead he's saving that for a Wasp Global. And we do see Gabi coming out, but he didn't roll a character face, so it might just be another Nova, or perhaps a Human Torch and Serena involved.
The Nova he is playing with is the rare. When Nova takes damage in an attack step, he deals 2 damage to your opponent. But it does look like he did go ahead with Magneto instead, fully investing into it. This is the Magnetic Monster. When he is active, or while he is active, opposing characters with purchase costs 3 or less lose their ability. Professor X can't be fielded, but that really has no relevance in this game with no Professor X.
Or pretty much any game, let's be honest here.
Right. We do see on Patrick's side or Shadow's side that Wasp, Constantine, and Storm would probably be the main affected by this, but I don't really see that being as a hindrance on his team. He did roll the Human Torch, so we will see some direct damage this turn. Since there is no other target other than a target on his team, he will have to direct it at a fielded character on his side.
I would guess he either directs it back at Human Torch or the Wasp, or maybe even a sidekick to try and roll more for next turn, since he has no way to ramp with sidekicks. And what we're seeing here is actually really scary for Kit, since he doesn't have any characters on the board versus a whopping 5 characters coming out on his opponent's field. That's a very dire situation to be in, especially without any way to reasonably ramp up, and with a kind of tax placed on every single global you're using. So I'm really curious about how he gets himself out of this position. Maybe with a Human Torch just to fight back in the Battle of the Pings?
Yeah, you would think that would be the direction, but it looks like he's really investing into Nova. I know 4 cost, it does look like he's purchasing Jocasta. Nowadays when we do see Jocasta, we kind of synonymously think of the Mr. Sinister Global as being kind of a key portion of the team. Activating her, but I mean, with what he's built here, Human Torch really does look like the only source of damage other than combat that she would see, and at least on his part that he can control. I'm not sure if that's really going to be that effective in the long run on this team, but we'll see definitely how it works out.
Oh, very much so. I'm wondering if he maybe doesn't transfer his strategy into a sort of Black Widow Serena setup because his opponent doesn't have very many level 2 or 3 characters out, and
Right.
that ability to just put on that constant burn, maybe get some ramp when Black Widow dies to opposing characters could be really useful. But it's just very difficult once your opponent's walled up and sequestered all those sidekicks away to really throw yourself back into it. And we need to see more sidekicks coming out of Kit, otherwise his Gabi's just going to be ineffective.
Right, we just did see Patrick buy the Captain America. This one, he did Blue Eyes into it, so he does maintain ramp. While active, each time you take non-combat damage, deal 1 damage to an opponent. That's going to be pretty tough for Kit, I think, to overcome if he gets that out on the field. He is rolling Nova at this point, and Jocasta, so we'll see if he gets.
We just gave him the energy from Jocasta since Nova's more important. But I want to take a second to talk about Captain America. The Captain America we're seeing here is the Man Out of Time, the 5 cost, and I've honestly never seen anyone but Patrick play it, and I'm not really sure why, because it's very interesting what it does to the game. The lower cost Captain Americas are kind of anti-burn, being either anti-Gabi or anti-Human Torch, but Captain America, instead the 5 cost, instead of healing back up or mitigating damage, instead decides to counter that burn damage with more burn of his own, kind of making the pace of the game that much faster, and if you have the field advantage, really securing you the win in a burn versus burn scenario.
Right, it looks like Patrick went ahead and bought a Constantine, so that's actually going to directly counter the Green Goblin's fielding effect. It looks like that'd be the only character that really has a impact, or that would have an impact on. It does allow him to stall a little longer on his opponent's side, not allowing the characters to attack when they're fielded as well. So definitely a strong purchase there. And I think in the long run, definitely is going to hold him and give him the time he needs to get his Human Torch really burning. We'll see what Kit pulls out here. Right now, he's rolling all sidekicks, 6 total, and he's got 4 masks. In a Professor X game, that would be perfect. But now that we're not seeing that, I'm the direction he's going to go. Since Patrick does have a Captain America, I'm not sure if he does want to purchase another Human Torch. Where would you go, Necro, with this?
I'm telling you, he needs to start getting more sidekicks on the field. While Constantine may be the Gabi killer, he doesn't have Constantine out yet, and still, getting those sidekicks on the field means he's not rolling them every turn, means he's rolling more bolt faces, and it means that if he ever picks up Human Torch, when they die to the opposing Human Torch, he can field them again, and hopefully use that to clear off some of his opponent's board and start some of the burn of his own. But at this point, we're just kind of seeing him outmatched at every turn. We've got the Captain America coming in. We've got the Gabi killer Constantine coming out hopefully next turn. We've got Wasp kind of shutting down any sorts of globals. Human Torch is already set up on the other side. It's kind of a very grim position to be in.
Definitely on the downhill for Kit right now, but he did purchase a Black Widow. I know that was something you were suggesting earlier with that direct damage. This is the Serena, which does give the opponent the option to either take 2 damage or spin down one of their characters. Patrick or Shadow is pulling out Captain America at this point, so we are going to see it fielded as well as dealing that direct damage with Human Torch. That's going to put Kit down to 14 life and potentially hold him at bay in the race when it comes to direct damage now that that captain is out.
The real scary thing here is that that also clears the board, and we would be seeing Lethal coming out if we hadn't seen those 3 masks saved for distraction coming out of Kit's side, and we may just see him forced to use those either way by sending Captain straight in along with the walled sidekicks, since the sidekicks on the field aren't really doing anything at this point other than just staying out of the bag. We do see Magnetic Monster coming out, and that's actually not really a good idea for Kit to field at this point because of the Mystic Box Global. All that's going to do is provide Patrick a wall of sidekicks that now can steal the high damage that Magneto provides, and that's just not something you really want to give your opponent. And while we do see him coming out on his level 1 face, his weakest, and Gabi as well, I'm still not sure that keeping him is a good idea, just because all he's going to be doing is providing attack resources to your opponent, whereas that's just another character you're going to have to distract now.
Right. That's the other side of the coin, is that he does have blocker at this point, and then would also have the ability to distract those characters if he holds on to that energy. And with this, he's going to have 3 energy left over, all being potential mask. So it's not going to be lethal. It's going to definitely stall for a little bit, but not enough really at this point to hold him at bay for very long, though. He is going to field him. That is going to alter the effect of Wasp, as well as when he does get Constantine fielded, they will both lose their ability. So he won't be taking damage when he does activate the global abilities. He did decide to re-roll the 2 dice, or 2 sidekick dice, so he's purchasing a Black Widow, going to go ahead and field both characters. I'm not sure if I would have gone that direction. I mean, you definitely...
It gets to the point where, are you saving the masks to save yourself with distraction, or are you, kind of buying yourself a little bit of time to stay in the game, or do you take the risk and make a purchase that might get you kind of coming back into it? Because if he just saves sidekicks as masks for distraction the entire game, he's going to get burned to the ground by that Human Torch just every single turn.
So we do see Constantine potentially here. Pretty tough role there.
The question is, do we even need to see him? We've already got one Gabi sequestered neatly in the field, and he's probably going to be kept there for a blocker the entire time, and the other Gabi has no sidekicks out to kind of burn with, and a single shield turns all that damage into 1 to both parties since Captain America's on the board. At this point, Gabi is kind of...
It looks like he's going to try and take the game here. We do see, again, Magic Box Global, which does allow the swap of the attack value of one of your monsters with that of one of the opposing monsters. So potentially here, what's the total we're looking at? He's going to go ahead and block the captain, and then the next highest...
5 of those usable shield faces, Mystic Box is going to turn whatever characters to get through into a 4, 5, and 3, with the Wasp not even being messed with. We could see the mask being saved until we've seen the transfer powers come out, but that's not going to be an issue since we have no block on the Wasp. So let's count it up. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 5 plus 4. That is 14 damage. I'm pretty sure this is lethal so long as Patrick uses his shields appropriately, even with the distraction coming out.
So he is going to go ahead and give that sidekick Magneto's 4 attack, trading it with 1, which will give him enough to take the game, it looks like.
Not quite. There's going to be a single distraction being put into play, and so we're going to need to see a pair of double swaps to give Captain America to one of the unblocked sidekicks, as well as that 4 damage to one of the other unblocked sidekicks, but that still should be lethal. I may be counting an extra sidekick in there, at which point we just have to wait for the Wasp Global next turn, but it's still pretty much good game at this point.
So he is going to double Mystic Box Global and give the 5/5 to the Gabi, trading, making that Gabi a 5/2, and then swapping that with one of his 1/1 sidekicks, making it a 5/1 attack. So right now he's looking at 9 up at the top, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 damage exactly. Again, that does come down to what Necro was saying. He can distract one of those characters, but we'll see what his choice is here.
Okay, so that is
put it back onto
already attacking. We are going to see a distraction on that 5 damage sidekick, at which point we see another double swap, probably using Gabi or any of the other characters, and that puts the other one of the remaining sidekicks from a 1 to a 5, boosting his damage by 4, leading to 13 full damage. Meaning that he is going to have to use a single Wasp Global. They're kind of hashing it out in the chat, Patrick is letting Kit know that he has got 14 unblocked damage at this point, so it's about time for that distraction global to come on out of his opponent's team.
So he is going to go ahead and distract that 5 attack, leaving the 4 attack plus the other 3 sidekicks and the 2/2 wops going through. Again, as Necro was saying, he can again swap the attack values as needed, getting it back up to where he gives that 5 to one of his side to Gabi and then trades it back to one of his other sidekicks, dealing 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, as you said. So we'll see if he goes ahead and does that.
I'm pretty sure Kit is going to call it right here. It's looked like he's asking for a rematch, so he understands that this is GG, even if it's not quite lethal. Let's talk to the players, see how they think the match went out, and we'll see how that goes down.
Hello.
Hey, welcome back. After that victory, let's go ahead and talk to the winner, Shadow Meld. Shadow, how are you feeling about that fast?
Hold on.
Yeah.
We should play it through.
Yeah, it is technically only 13 damage.
Okay, sorry. I saw you calling for a rematch, and I thought that was your concession.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but I mean, we may as well just play the next turn.
Okay, we can just cut all this out, and so want to go back to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, doesn't matter too much, but I mean, just.
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
It's fine. Your Magneto bounces, your Gabi dies, my Cap and Torch bounce.
Because you can't do the Wasp global if Magneto is active.
That is true.
This is very true.
It still is just a single sidekick fielded for the Human Torch burn damage, but if you want to play it out, be my guest. I was just I saw the want to rematch.
And Captain America's no, he's alive. He's fine.
Yep. And so that's our current game state, and it's your turn, sir.
So
yeah, I mean, it's hopeless, but may as well just play it out.
Oh, I understand. If you guys could remute.
So again, we were down to 13 damage total, which brought him down to 1 life. Kid is on the edge right now. He's going ahead and rolling a Nova, which he did get the face side, and no facings on the other characters, Goblin or Magneto. Now he does need that Magneto to stay out on the field in order to prevent just a single Wasp damage, but as we were looking at it before, he does have Human Torch, which is another source of direct damage, so he has to get that off the field if possible. What would you do in this situation, Necro?
This is a pretty sticky wicket to be certain. At 1 life with your opponent all the way up at 20 and a Human Torch on the field with also the Captain America burning your opponent for any burn coming in the other way, it's just a very difficult turn. If he fields everything, he saves up a single mask for a distraction, but any sorts of characters being fielded on Patrick's side is going to be game, so I don't know. If my opponent's at 20 at this point, I would honestly call it just because it is pretty much at that point, but it's shown a lot of honor from our players here today that they're still willing to give it their all, kind of play it out to the end and see how the dice roll. So let's see if we can see how this turns out. We see the double field.
The Nova and the Gabi, as well as Magneto, so he does have 3 semi-warm bodies on the field, minus the Magneto, I guess, there. So with 1 mask left, not a lot he can do. He's just going to go for it, it looks like, and attack with the Nova, which again takes damage, deals 2 damage to your opponent. Gabi, which the effect did not resolve in this as he did not have any sidekicks, but it is a strong body of 5/5.
Yep. The moment that Nova takes damage, we're going to see it trigger, dealing 2 damage to Patrick, at which point Captain America triggers, dealing that 1 damage back. So if we see Human Torch declaring the block against the Green Goblin, it's good game with only 2 damage dealt to Patrick. But no matter how we see this coming out, it's, oh, he distracts back his own Nova just to guarantee he gets that 5 damage in. What a card. It's always nice to see that last little pizzazz out of the players, especially since that does give away the single distraction he has, and we have 3 characters to 2. That guarantees at least 1 getting through in the attack step, but that is still just such a fun way to leave it off. At least scratch your opponent, if nothing else.
Right, and again, this even though he does have the Wasp Global, it is unavailable to him as Magneto is still active on the field. So, and he did get the Wasp. That is game. That is a single point of damage to take the win. So let's go ahead and speak with the winner. Let's get him in here. Patrick, Shadow Meld.
Hey, what's up?
Congratulations on your win. I know this is your first win on the stream. How are you feeling about that?
You know, it's always nice to play somebody that's not you and win.
So where do you feel the really big swing in this was? Because I know it felt like, or at least seemed from this perspective, that you had a lot of the control the majority of the game.
I landed character faces and he missed a bunch.
Yeah,
I mean, that was
played out at the beginning.
That was the biggest part of it. And then the follow up is once Cap hit the field, Serena, Torch, and Gabi, and even Nova and Jocasta almost became liabilities more than they became threats. And the fact that my Human Torch was able to keep his sidekicks off the field also really helped.
That Captain America is a really interesting character that I just have never seen anyone but you play him. What exactly is what is the thought process behind that 5-cost Captain America? Is it strictly just for the burn versus burn counter matchup?
So, well, if my opponent plays Wasp, I play Captain America, and then we both lose a life when I use a global, so it's not a net loss for me in competitiveness. And since I'm playing Death by 1,000 Cuts, any damage I can get in on my opponent that at least keeps the status quo keeps me ahead of the game, right? I only have to hit once with a really big Mystic Box character to get a massive advantage, and then between Wasp, Human Torch, and Captain America, I'm doing enough consistent, constant damage to keep my opponent's health descending through the entire team.
Okay, because that was what really had me curious, because Captain America, the First Avenger, keeps you healthy, but it really seemed like you wanted to just go all out with the damage, and Captain America Man Out of Time, while more expensive, is that more punchy, more aggressive, more damage your opponent kind of captain.
Win faster, don't stay alive longer.
Right, you do still have those options of control with Solomon Grundy, the Blue Eyes, the Human Paladin Knight, and even Storm. I know you didn't purchase her, but her global, I know that have you seen it in use really been effective in other games you've played?
It's really great on if they're polying in their Hulk, you can poly out their patch.
Right. Well, that was a great game. Congratulations again for playing, and we'll go ahead now and we'll turn to our other contestant here, Kit. So Kit, how are you feeling after that loss? I know it was tough. You were kind of fighting uphill at points. Do you feel like there was anything you could have done that would have differently that would have effectively changed the results there?
I probably had some questionable buys, and to be honest, I didn't quite appreciate the Captain America dealing the damage back. That's a pretty. I like that Captain America a lot, but I thought I was the only one that liked it. But yeah, it's a good card. I think I might have brought out because of all the because of that effect, I might have brought out Wolverine, and he doesn't really want to block my guys, so I might have brought out Wolverine and sort of forced the issue a little bit. I figured Magneto could come out and sort of lock down Wasp and Constantine, and I just wouldn't have to worry about him. it did not help to not roll Nova or Green Goblin, and basically like the all energy roll that I got probably when I really needed to start putting some characters on the board, and I had a decent number of character dice in my roll.
I remember seeing that, and I just really felt for you because everybody who's played Dice Masters knows the feeling of rolling too much energy, and when it happens, that just really ruins your turn for quite a little bit of time because all those characters now have to make it all the way through the use pile, back into your bag, and back out, only to maybe then roll more energy, and that's just such a crushing feeling.
Yeah, it was not the best. I mean, especially if you're playing against Human Torch, who's just gonna ping away at you, and it's just not gonna be pleasant because you're the only characters you're able to field are sidekicks, of course, and those are just going away when.
I am curious as to what the kind of rationale behind picking up Jocasta instead of Human Torch was, as Captain America was not quite on the board yet.
I mean, you have to understand. I mean, maybe I'm not as meta or I'm not as committed to the science of this. But honestly, I don't really like playing with Human Torch if I can possibly avoid it.
I can understand that. I've
been playing with Human Torch for about 2 straight years now, so Jocasta is the flavor of the month, and I thought that would have been a little more fun. I mean, to be perfectly honest, that was the reasoning. But
she's definitely a great choice, but it's just the means of getting her activated. What were you thinking about how to use her in the game? When you did purchase her and you got her out on the field, what was your potential strategy with her out on the field, since you don't have things like Nasty Boy or even
well, the real concept was to potentially have Nova and Jocasta out in the field, and basically Human Torch would have to ping his own guys because he basically couldn't ping me.
Okay.
And that would be it would be something that would at least cause some pause. That was what I was thinking.
Okay, so like in an ideal world, it kind of forces your opponent to control their own field for you.
Well, yeah, exactly. They're not quite as willing to just fire away at my. I would have loved to. I would not have been attacking with my characters had I put a bunch of them out there. What I was planning on doing is actually getting Magneto out there, then bringing Green Goblin out, and knocking him out with the Blue Eyes White Dragon global. That would, of course, been okay to do because Wasp would have been neutralized at that point. And just kept rolling him, knocking him out, rolling him and knocking him out. And hopefully that if I could have gotten that going a few times, that would have been kind of nice. But
just the way the dice rolled, huh?
Yeah, maybe that's not that great an idea, but I figured, that's always the trick with Green Goblin. You want to get him out of the field, preferably knocked out as soon as possible. So I figured that might have been a good idea.
Right. Well, thank you guys very much for both being a part of this. For myself, Dylan, and Necromanticer, thank you for joining us for another episode of In the Field. If you want to see more and keep up with what's going on in the world of Dice Masters, check out our articles and videos at thereservepool.com. See you next time in the field.